Hi there. I'm so glad that you're open to sharing your story with us.
Yeah, I don't, you know, we can't be private about this stuff. People need to know about our journeys. People need to know about our disease. Yeah. If people don't know about our disease, there's never a hope for treating it and maybe someday curing it. Just like with alcohol, I never met a drug I didn't like. I mean, I wanted to always add to the experience, and I always wanted to get out of my own head.
Eventually, I know that the alcohol and drugs led to a gambling addiction.
Yeah, the first real exposure to gambling I had was, once again, big surprise, my very first trip to Reno as a 21-year-old. I went with Mom and Dad, and they introduced me to table blackjack. Video poker had not yet even been, wasn't widely even in the casinos in '76. There was some, but it wasn't in wide use. But I played blackjack, and I think it's safe to say from the very first time I gambled, my addiction came right out, just like with everything else. I recall playing blackjack for over 24 hours straight. Fast forward through law school, was after that, college and law school, and my drug and alcohol addiction continued through both of those, and occasional trips to Reno to gamble, and those were always binge gambling episodes where I lost everything I had. And so I would go out alone a lot, and I remember one weekend I got paid on a Friday, and I had maybe $1,000 in my pocket, which was a lot of money, more than I had ever seen in my life before, you know, on a regular basis. And I went into Binion's Horseshoe, and I gambled, and I won some money, and I was drinking the in those days 25-cent cocktails, and was extremely buzzed on that. And I remember with crystal clarity stopping and looking around and going, holy cow, this is my town. I mean, I don't ever have to stop drinking. In those days, cocaine was everywhere, and I don't ever have to stop gambling. And it felt to me like this was home. Why? Because it fed all of my addictions. I was in a place where nobody could tell me to stop anymore. The gambling continued sporadically, frequently losing large sums of money and getting it back. But interestingly enough, after I got into recovery, I was moving some boxes, and I opened a box, and there was some paperwork in there. I was flipping through it, and I found a handwritten New Year's Eve resolution list from 1991. The number one thing on the New Year's Eve resolution list was stop gambling. So like so many addicts that we hear sharing in GA all the time, I couldn't stop. I knew I had to stop. I knew that it was damaging me financially. But I didn't stop and couldn't stop. In the 80s and 90s, if you were an attorney, you were making tons of money. I was the 450th lawyer in Las Vegas. My bar number is 181. Now the bar numbers are up around 13,000. And so I had an extremely successful law practice. One of the, I think for a while, from maybe 94 to 2001, I don't know of a single solo practice lawyer in town that was making more money. Despite the fact that I was out there gambling like a fiend, the cash flow, I didn't have to worry about losing $20,000 on the weekend because I was going to get another $50,000 the next week. Of course, I spent money faster than it came in the door, like an addict does. And so it continued. I was able to barely, through the kinds of manipulations that gambling addicts do, to barely keep the practice running for about 10 years. But also by 2001, I'd been introduced to the lovely drug of methamphetamine. Methamphetamine was the most powerful high I'd ever had in my life. So when I combined smoking methamphetamine every day, often for days at a time without sleep, with gambling addiction, those two melded together into a deadly cocktail. So my life became, by 2006, long periods of methamphetamine use, and long binges of gambling. By May 1st of 2006, the Nevada Supreme Court suspended me from the practice of law because clients asked for their money back out of trust and it wasn't there. The jig was up. And I sunk into abysmal, deep, dark, frightening depression. I would curl up in my bedroom, and addicts who I was associating with would bring drugs to my house, and I would use drugs in my room until I passed out and sleep, literally, not bathing or sleeping for days at a time, punctuated by I couldn't gamble during the day because I didn't want anybody to see me, so I would drive down to one of the casinos near my house at about midnight and gamble all night. And of course the casino, the slot host was all too happy to give me a suite at the Palace Station. I mean, I was gambling $20,000 a week there. They damn sure should have. So my life was totally chaotic, totally negative. And I think a really fair way to say it is that I was trying very hard to kill myself. I thought, I'm going to go to prison. My life is over. My colleagues hate me. My family hates me. And my life's over. So I was trying to kill myself with drugs and alcohol. This culminated in September of 2006. I'd been suspended for about 5 months or 4 months trying to kill myself with drugs and alcohol. I went on a long, multi-day meth binge. And eventually, with methamphetamine, when you smoke it, you get to the point where you can no longer function. You just literally conk out. Your brain shuts down. And my brain shut down, and I think I slept for maybe 48 hours. And I came to, and it was a Tuesday, and it was 2 in the morning. And I got up, and I thought, man, what kind of a life am I leading here? What is this? My life is over. I thought to myself, let's see, well, I'll call a friend and I'll talk about it. And I realized, I don't have a friend. I don't have any friends. My friends left me. My friends are gone. And I thought, well, I'll call somebody in my family. And I realized I couldn't call them because I had shoved them out of my life. And I thought, well, I'll call an addict, somebody to talk to. But the addicts didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore because they knew my money was gone. All I was going to do was be a drain on their dope or their money. And so there I was by 3 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, alone in this giant house, a 6,000 square foot house. And I was walking up and down in the halls. I cleaned the house. And I was thinking about my life. And I said, my life is over, man. My life's already over. I literally thought, I'm already dead. I'm really already dead. The best thing I can hope for is a long stretch in the federal prison, and I've represented enough defendants in my life to know what happens to lawyers in prison. I didn't want to be there. And then I thought, you've done a lot, Doug. You've made more money than most men make in 100 lifetimes. You've traveled the world. You've driven the fanciest cars. You've bought the nicest properties. You've made love to the most beautiful women. You've done it all. You're Mr. Super Guy, and you might as well just wrap this up. I approached it, unlike some people, I kind of approached it from a kind of a logical standpoint. I literally said to myself, there's this life, and I saw my life, and I saw that in a sense it was complete, and that whatever was going to happen in the future was going to be really, really bad. Probably a lot of pain, probably a lot of confinement, a lot of humiliation, a lot of anger, a lot of publicity, and so I said, you know, maybe the best thing to do is just wrap it up in a bow today. And I went in the closet and got my 12 gauge. I have a 12 gauge semi-automatic shotgun, and I took a shell and put it in the chamber and clicked it in. And I walked to my living room. I had a beautiful sunken living room and plush carpet, gorgeous furniture all around. And I went right dead center of the living room, and I laid down on the floor, and I had these vaulted ceilings. I was looking up at the ceiling. And I laid the shotgun down beside me, and then I thought, well, you know, I don't want to mess this up. I better make sure that everything fits. So I took the shotgun and I put it in the barrel in my mouth, and I reached down and found that I could reach the trigger with my thumb. I said, okay, that's good, that works. So I set it down again. And I laid there on my back, and I said, literally, if I can't think of a reason to stay alive in the next half an hour or so, I'm going to do this thing. And I just laid there and thought about my life. And I can't say that I thought it's time to die or anything. I was just thinking, and I was sad. I was just bitterly sad. Imagine how sad you get when something makes you sad. I was sad to the point where sad doesn't describe it. I mean, it was just down. And so I said, well, maybe I should do this. And I kind of started to reach for the shotgun. And then I told you this before, I think my little puppy, Jane, she was a mutt. And she looked around the corner at me, and she knew that I was freaked out. For the last year of my addiction, that dog was about the only entity on earth that I could.
Your lifeline.
She understood me, and so she grabbed a little stuffed animal out of her toy box, her favorite toy, and she trotted down into the living room and dropped it either on my tummy or right around me somewhere. And I literally looked at her, and I thought, you know, man, I can do this to me, but I can't do this to her. I cannot blow my head off in front of my dog that I love. And I told myself at the beginning of this little adventure that if I could find a reason to live, that I was going to live, and that's a reason. So I unloaded the shotgun, got up, took it and put it back in the closet. It didn't end there, of course. I continued with my addiction for another week or so. Then got evicted from my house, then stayed at some comps in the Texas on the remainders of my gambling career, and then found out from a judge that there was this program called the Problem Gambling Center, and he said he would pull some strings and get me in there. So that's when my recovery started.